What's good, people? It's your girl Kamari, Creative here, and we are back with another replay from April 2019 Poet Chats. I'm so excited. I love this episode because we are watching the replay with Little Golden Blackout Poems herself, Miss Sarah Wheeler. And I really enjoyed this live because she does these awesome erasure poems and they're just like really, really dope. And you're going to love this live. You're going to learn so much of her wonderful, peaceful life. And make sure you are subscribing to the YouTube channel so you can get all of these full interviews and following me on Instagram. That way you can stay tuned for when we vamp up April 1st, 2020. So make sure you enjoy this interview. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Poet Chats. Tonight I have the honor of interviewing Sarah Wheeler. She is the curator of Little Golden Blackout Poems, which I think is super cool, and you guys are going to want to tune in for this as I invite her into the room. So I'll have her tell you what the poems are. Is really artistic and super cool. So I just invited her into the room, and there she is.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Great. So
You
excited.
look fabulous.
Oh, thanks.
Yes,
Here
you know. Tell all of our viewers who Sarah Wheeler is. Little Golden Blackout Poems.
Sure. So I guess for starters, like I would say, like before I call myself a poet, I call myself a storyteller. Before I ever, started to like focus on writing, I was an actor. So I was trained in performance. And so that's been like my journey for the past like 10 years. I studied theater in college and moved to Atlanta for theater, and then moved out here to do a conservatory. And it was only the last couple years where I sort of, I told myself a couple years ago I'm going to start going to the Poetry Lounge. I ended up moving right across the street to them. And so like for a year I told myself I'm going to go every Tuesday. And so I started going every week, but I was never performing because it was really intimidating. So I would just go, I would get really inspired and I'd go home and I would like write little poems, or not little poems, they're pretty long. And then about a year ago, last summer, I went to a writing retreat with Cheryl Strayed. Are you familiar?
Wow. Yeah, am I? That's really
well,
cool.
Some people know her, some people don't. Like, I am in love with her. And so I went to this writing workshop in Big Sur, and I've been trying to get into it for like 3 years. So when I went, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna write everything they tell me to write, and I'm gonna read in every single class. And I ended up writing something that got the attention of one of the teachers. And so I went to a book signing that night, and when she was signing my copy of her book, she was like, okay, so what are you doing for your writing right now? And I was like, oh, this, like, that was it. And so that was sort of the turning point for me where I really realized, like, okay, like, if I want to call myself a writer, and going to that camp was like the first time I ever was like, I'm a writer, you know? So when she said that to me, I was like, okay, what if I just stopped trying to do acting and writing and everything all at once, and I just like let myself have a year where I just wrote. And so that's what this year has been for me. And I started making erasure poems a while back, which is where Little Golden Blackout Poems comes from. So if anybody's seen my page, what I do is I take newspapers, like everyone I know saves me their LA Times.
Aww.
Like that suitcase, I don't know if you can see it, like over there, and that basket, like everything, my whole apartment is just filled with newspapers everywhere.
That's so cool.
Stashed. And so about last year, my sister got really sick, and I just decided, well, that I wanted to make her a care package, and that I wanted to fill it with like anything I could think of that would just make her, that would give her life. And so there was this one day when I went to the Grove, and I went in World Market because it's my favorite store, and I started walking around, and I was literally like putting my hands on things, touching them, being like, okay, like how much life would this give her? How much life would this give her? And then I just had to stop at one point and be like, well, what would I want? And my answer for myself was poetry. And so then I was like, all right, well, peace, World Market. And I went over to Barnes and Noble, and I just started going. I sat down in that poetry section, and I went through like every book. And that's when I came across just like this random book of erasure poetry. And I was just like, this is incredible. But I didn't think those particular poems were going to speak to her where she was at. So I decided I was going to go home and make her a bunch myself. And so I had a bunch of like old books, and I just started ripping them up, and I made her this care package, and I put probably like 100 poems in there that and I just like every little thing. And so that was in like February, and my friend, we had a Galentine's, and I made all of my friends erasure poems because I just started making them, and I was so excited about them. And then, so one of my friends, who's an event coordinator, her boss had been like, they were doing this event where they needed a poet to come in and make poems. And my friend was like, well, I know a girl. And the woman was like, but is she any good? And my roommate was like, yes. And so I went to this event, and I just sat there for the whole night, and I made poems on the spot for people, and they would come up and like give me a word, and I would like make a poem based on that theme. And that night, people were just like, they wanted to be able to buy them. They were like, where can we follow these? Where can we buy these? And I was just like, oh, I thought I was the only one who cared about these, you know? So when people wanted to see them, it was cool. And what was really touching was seeing like the poems that I would make and the ones people would choose for themselves, you know? So that's how that all started. So I went home that night, made an Instagram, and I've been making poems every day ever since. So
that's so cool.
There we are.
Like when I saw that, I was like, instant follow, because I think, and it's more than just like it looks beautiful. I love that they're all gold.
Thank
you.
But
like the words that you choose it's so intentional, right? And so
yes.
Tell us like your process, like how, because I feel like if you gave 5 different people the same newspaper clipping, everyone will have a different take.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that is so amazing. So tell us your process of erasure poems, and maybe tell people what they are. I think some people they may not know.
Okay.
Erasure poems.
So what I do is I take like an article, like I was working on this one this morning, and I just find like a random section, and then I take a gold Sharpie. Single-handedly, I'm keeping gold Sharpie in business, and I will just black out all of the words and see what I can create out of that. So I made this one this morning. I love this article because it had the word forward 5 times in a row. Well, not in a row, but you know, like in this section. And this article is about NBA baseball teams, right? And I like baseball, but what I love is that I can take an article based on anything, and you can make something completely different, but you take it out of context, you know? And that's what I love about this, is that it's like working against the text to what news story you can find. And not only that, but like what truer story can you find, you know? And that for me is really like the thing of like, okay, how can I just nail down the thought? Like what's really here that like maybe nobody else could see, you know? And sometimes I can make a poem in like a minute, and sometimes I will literally sit with an article for hours, like hours. I have one over there on like birds that I love birds. And so like I can't touch it because the writing is so beautiful. It's like I don't think I can improve this. But
Yeah.
something that's just like clay, you can make
Mm.
anything. Did that answer the question?
That did. That is really, really cool. Just that whole process, I just think is amazing. And I was like, I wonder if I can get her to just tell us like a crash course
Crash
on
course.
like erasure poem.
Yeah, so my process is I'll take an article and I don't even first time through I don't even like read the article. I just look for like words. Just like what's a word that just jumps off the page at you that maybe a lot of people don't use, or if I see a repeated phrase, maybe that wasn't intentional, but in close proximity, it makes me think like, oh, well, how can I build this repetition? And it's just, you find one word and then it's like a crossword puzzle. You know, you go up, down, side to side, and like what if I can pick like one strong word and then start building up, you know, you get 3 in a row and you're like, okay, the story starts telling itself, you know? And that's what's just like so beautiful about it to me. And then also it's really revealing of like, well, it's really your subconscious, you know, it's really like the things that jump out to you or the things you're thinking about that you don't know that you're thinking about.
Right.
For me, sometimes it's pretty convicting because I'm like, oh man, I didn't know my mind was there, you know. Yeah.
So how has doing these erasure poems, how have they informed your writing yourself?
Oh my gosh. So like a lot of people talk about their writing process, right? And their regimen. And for me, like I'll sit down and I'll work on a poem, but like sometimes I don't have it, you know, like I'm an artist, like I work 3 jobs. You come home at the end of the day and like sometimes you cannot generate from yourself. Like sometimes there's nothing left.
Yeah.
But sometimes I always can like pick up, unless like my eyes are just too tired, but I can always just like pick up one of these and I can make something. And that has been such a gift because it's like, okay, I can create something every day. Even if it's small, even if it's just like one poem, like I can make something. And also, so sometimes it'll be like my way in to another poem, you know? So I'll make an erasure poem about something and I'm like, oh, well, that's a story that I haven't told yet. I need to tell that story. Or vice versa. Sometimes I'll have like a long poem and I'll look at an article and I'll see it synthesized. You know, so it's you know how I'm writing a book right now, and it's a compilation of erasures and long form prose, and it's cool to like have this like full flushed out story, and then just like the one liner, you know, that's just like, and this is what I'm actually trying to say, like but now like this is what I mean. So it's been a real gift to me to make these.
That is a gift. And I think it's beautiful to just be able to, like, I know what you're talking about when you just, as an artist, like you're depleted, like the world has taken from you. You've been battling traffic, battling all these jobs, you know, and then come home and you're like, okay, wait, I have to create because this is really who I am. I have to do something.
And that's what gives me life. Like,
yes.
All these crazy things that we do, you know, we don't do them for fun. At least
we do it to survive. It's so bad.
It's the survival thing you do so that you can do the other thing.
Yes, I love that so much. So I would love to just encourage those that are watching and will watch the replay to like give that a try. Of course, you know, follow Little Golden Blackout Poems and see how it's done.
Yeah, like it's a gift. So do it.
That's amazing. So tell us, in your opinion, according to Sarah, what is the job of the poet?
Oh, I've been thinking about this. So my favorite poet is Mary Oliver, and she says, pay attention, be amazed, tell about it. And like
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
No, it's totally fine. To me, that just means like look around and stay curious. Stay curious.
Mm,
And it to me it just reminds me to
mm,
embrace that child part of myself.
yeah.
You know, like just look at the world with new eyes and like
Mm,
see what else you can see. Because I think a lot of times we just go through life on autopilot and
yeah.
we just miss all these beautiful things that are right in front of us.
Mm,
And I'm a property manager, and I'm not going to go off really, but I have this one tenant, right? And she had this floor that had just like a little corner peeling up in the kitchen.
mm,
And for weeks, she would just call me screaming about how her whole life was ruined. Like her life was
mm,
ruined. She couldn't live like this anymore because of this little square in her kitchen floor. And it's just like sometimes we focus on the wrong details, you know?
yes.
So fixated on the wrong thing that we just like miss what's actually happening, what's actually right here. And so
Mm, mm-hmm.
I think for the poet, it's really just like look around, appreciate what's there, and then just like and you know, sometimes it's not beautiful stuff, right? Like
Right.
sometimes it's really hard, ugly stuff. But talk about that too. Like
Mm,
go deeper, ask more questions. I think we just get so blocked in that a lot of times we get lost. We lose sight of what's important and we lose sight of ourselves.
mm. That just stabbed me right in the chest
I
because
mean, me too. What I think
we
about.
just so focus on the wrong details,
Yeah.
you know, that you miss that you have this. I mean, in reference to like that, focus on this bad square, but you miss this beautiful apartment that you have that you could just made your own, you
Even tell
know?
it's the most beautiful apartment. It's the most beautiful apartment, and she has like you know she travels all over the world, and like
Mm,
she just like her refrigerator is literally like thousands of magnets of like everywhere she's been, and I'm like you
wow.
know how lucky you are, like and then
Hmm.
she goes off about how like well I pay X amount of money for rent, and I'm like but do you know how lucky you are that you can even say that you can pay
Mm,
that much money for rent like. Anyway,
mm,
when I moved into this, when they asked me to do this job, my property manager, right? It's a studio, and when I first came in here, I was like, "Is this gonna be enough?" And now I look around and I'm like, "Of course it's enough. Like it's more than enough." But of course,
yes.
like you know, the mirror, right? So
Mm.
yes,
Yeah, thank you for that. That is very, very touching. And I think that um poets, I mean, yeah, we can look we that like that is information for ourselves to like focus on the other details, the beautiful details, and like maybe help other people see those beautiful details too, because
hmm
you know, other people in the world are forgetting that too. And
yeah,
we can use our words to remind people that, you know, there is beauty in the world, you
yeah,
know.
yes.
Mm. So for those that are watching, if you have any questions for Sarah, now is the time to ask them.
Hit
Put
me.
them in the comment box or in the question box, and I'll be sure to get to them. I had a question based off of what you said earlier about your experience with theater,
Yeah.
and I want to know, why do you think, or do you think?
Mm,
Because I like, and you know, sometimes I'm trying to like answer the questions within the question, but like, because I'm like thinking yes when
obviously,
you hear my
right.
question, but
Yeah.
why, or do you think that, you know, taking theater classes maybe can help a poet, or should they even go down that route? Like, in
Yeah.
what way should they explore that?
Yes. A
All of
thousand
that.
times. Yes. Like, you know, I told you like I decided to put acting away for the year and focus on
Mm-hmm.
writing. But I will also say that like acting acting classes at the conservatory I did, like it saved me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like being in therapy for like 5 years because in theater your job is just to tell the truth. And when also as a poet, your job, going back to that question, is just to tell the truth. That's literally
Mm-hmm.
it. Like all we're here to do as storytellers, as artists, is just tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had this one teacher who he wouldn't let you. Okay, the first day of his class, right? We had to come in and do a monologue as a character we would never be cast as. And so I did this monologue of this guy who had just like beaten somebody to a pulp.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did this monologue, and then my teacher, and this was the first day of class, and I'm on the stage by myself, and he just says to me, okay, like, what are you mad about?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, the character or me? And he was like, you. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, well, I guess I'm mad at my dad. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I had no idea that I was upset about that until he just like asked me. And
Mm-hmm.
another thing he said a couple weeks into that class was he asked us like, what is the lie that you're telling in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And that hit me so hard because at that time I had been in a relationship with somebody for a long time, and it was like when before you want to admit to yourself something,
Yeah.
and it was like he said that, and I'm like, oh yeah, well damn, now I have to do something about this, like
Yeah.
once you tell yourself the truth,
Mm.
there's no denying it, there's no going back.
Right.
And that is something that like acting, you
Mm.
can't lie because people see through it, and then it doesn't work.
Mm. So you think that by maybe getting into acting, even just like a little bit as a poet, maybe performing poet, it will help them tell the truth,
Yes,
basically.
it helps you tell the truth, but it also helps you stand in that truth,
Mm-hmm.
like I think a lot of us poets, like, we struggle sometimes with like just getting up on a stage and telling that story, and it's like we can put it on a page but we can't share it when it's time
Mm-hmm.
to share it. And I think all of my acting training really prepared me, like, I've been acting for forever when I started going to the poetry lounge, and I still couldn't get up on that stage because I was like, oh, but now I have to tell my truth,
Mm-hmm.
the truth, my truth. And that's an even scarier thing to do.
Yes.
But it was like I had those tools in my belt now. Like, I knew how to be in front of people. I knew how to like center myself and just like breathe through it. And there were many years when I was acting when I would come onto a stage and I'd be like, all right, either the words you're gonna throw up, are gonna come out, or I'm just gonna throw up. And like every time the words would just come. And now I don't have that fear anymore. Because I
Mm.
have the writing community supporting me, and I have the acting performance, vocal skills and articulation skills and breathing skills and truth-telling skills to just, it all flows together now. And
Mm.
it's really cool I feel like, oh, that's what all these things that I was doing that I didn't know why I was doing them, and now it all sort of is making sense,
Mm.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Kaylee MTZ asks, with erasure poems, since you are using someone else's words, can you call them your own work?
That is a tricky question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Mm.
It, in a way, well, obviously it's somebody else's work originally,
Yeah.
right? That's their story and their creation. But when you take something else and mold it into something else, I think that part you can take ownership of.
Mm.
I think it's sort of like, somebody makes a batter, right? Somebody makes a batter of dough, and then you choose whether you're going to turn that into biscuits or cinnamon rolls or a cake. Obviously that's not a great metaphor because those things don't make those things, but you see what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
if you make it into something completely new, but you have to acknowledge that it came from somewhere else first,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
You didn't generate it out of nothing. Like, it somebody gave you something that you could play with.
And that's really interesting. I mean, I couldn't see, like, let's say, I don't know, I can't think of anybody's name. Let's say J Moore 007, who's on here, writes an article and then you turn it into a poem. I don't see that person saying, hey, I don't like that you use my words and turn it into something else. I mean, I couldn't see that happening. If so, that would be so weird because it's totally different.
Right.
It's totally different from, like you said, they were writing about a basketball player in a scene.
I think that is sort of the caveat, right? So, like, if I take the poem that J Moore 007 has written, and I just sort of like block it out so that it's really just a summary of what that article is, then I think like, oh, well, I just condensed their poem. But if I take it and I go completely against the text and make something that like this baseball article was never going to be about like moving forward in your life, you know? It was about baseball.
Yeah.
The forward stop or something. I don't know. I blocked it out, so I don't remember what it said. But yeah. So it's a gray area, I guess.
That is gray, but I couldn't see that. That would be really weird if that person like, hey,
how dare you?
How dare you make this beautiful way better than what, you know?
Well, we wouldn't say that, right? We'd be like, hey, look,
we'll see. We'll wait for that day. If that day ever comes, then we'll
fight.
Let you know what happens. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm holding out for. So
definitely. Well, let's hear some work from you.
Okay. Sure. So, this is fun because I never get to share my stuff on here. So, okay. This is a poem called Moth. 1. Why does the moth fly into artificial light? Science suspects she is trying to reach the moon. By navigating celestially, moth can calculate her flight lines, can keep them straight, can rise. But her eyes are very small, see? And sometimes she has trouble differentiating between the natural and the imposter, and one light mistaken for another sends moth spiraling down, down, down too. Sister says she can feel it deep down in her bones now. Whatever it is. Doctors put her feet into a bucket, fill it with saline water, run a current through it, and by the end the salt has pulled some of it out through her soles. In the bucket there is orange and brown muck. Scared, sister asks, what is it? Intrigued, doctors ask, what is it? Still, whatever it is anybody's guess. 3, a few things about the moon. Man has walked on it. Perhaps will again. It controls the ocean and all living things. 4, sister has been trying to drain sadness from her bones for years. Has been dripping out and refilling with other less saline solutions, but only more sadness has come in. She doesn't want this sadness anymore, this crutch anymore, only wants to walk again, to walk on 5. The moon is about 250,000 miles away, 238 on a good day, but the moth does not know this. To her, it could be anywhere, could be anything, could be this flame or this fluorescent bulb right here. Ooh, so let's see. And she beelines for it and zap. An electric current shocks her, runs through her, pushes her back, then pulls her in again. Over and over, just like the tide. So this must be right, right? Or if this is not right, then what is? Or what if this is all there is? So she takes the hit again and again and again, and 6, sister broke the habit. They promised if she could do it, they could set her free. Just had to switch her pills for a dream. Didn't tell her science doesn't know everything yet, though. Didn't tell her she was only practice. Didn't tell her they haven't gotten it quite right just yet. Here, try this and take this, and shocked her over and over, and now she can't wake up from this lucid orange and brown muck, too weak to even crawl from her cocoon in the morning. They told her they could fix a damaged wing, and afterward they told her, so sorry, not our problem if it doesn't fly. 7. It is night, and sister sleeps next to me. She cannot be alone anymore. Restless, she thrashes, the sheets gasp and exhale. She moans, then quiets again, her body becoming still. The room fills with the sound of a rapid fluttering. There is a moth trapped in the window, caught between the glass and the screen. She hurls herself up against the divider. There is a full moon out there on the other side. She keeps at it all night, beating and beating and beating, her heart in her wings just begging to take flight.
Wow. I love it.
Thank you.
So much on so many levels. I love the parallels. I think that is such a skill to tell a story, come back, and like you, it's like, you know, I don't know. I'm like lost for words. It's amazing. It's like you're talking about the orange muck, and I'm going back to the, you know, the beginning when like, you know, her feet were in the saline. It's just amazing. I love that poem. It's
Thank you.
wonderfully crafted.
My favorite poem. Whether, you know, I don't know how well it translates over.
It translates great.
But that one took me a long time because it's about somebody so important to me.
I love it so much. And, you know, I like it too. I remember you shared it at the world stage, and I was like,
yeah,
amazing. And it's funny because like this week there was a moth trap in between our window too, like right where our bed was. And just like thinking of that moment of how like maybe it was just trying to get to the moon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And my name is like, it's a derivative of Swahili name Kamaria, which means like the moon. And so that's really like my name. And so when you think of that, I mean, when you read that and I thought of that, I was like, what if? But it was really cool. I love it.
Oh, what a beautiful name, Kamari. I wish my name meant like the moon.
Yeah, but my mom didn't know that though. She just liked the name and picked it up.
You know,
so
that's fine.
I got a question from a viewer. Auntie Sai says, when you put the blackout poems in your book, will they still be gold?
So that is the goal. It really will depend on like who my publisher is and how you know, how far out on a limb they want to go with me. I mean, the poems that I've made are all in gold, and a lot of them I made the intention of pairing with certain poems. So, unless they just decide to print them in black and white, which would be fine too. You know, like I like to make them with the gold, but also the story's the same.
It should be gold. They should be gold. I mean, come on.
We hope. We'll see. I'm not sure.
We hope to. Okay. Well, this is the last call for questions from our viewers. So if you have any questions, please type them in right now. And while you're typing them in, oh wait, I got another question.
Okay.
They're fast. Here we go. Why did you choose to use gold for your blackout poem?
What'd you say?
Why did you choose to use gold for your blackout poems?
Actually, I can't take credit for that. The first event where I was making poems, the vendor said, "Could you make them in gold?" And I was like, "I don't know if that'll work." And then it did, and I just thought, I love the aesthetic, and it's very much even though I did not come up with that concept myself, it is very much my aesthetic. I love
Mm.
anything that's very, I love nature, and I'm very neutral kind of in my palette, but I also really love the contrast of gold with, like gold against words, or gold against, I don't know, right? Like this is a gold fox, right? So,
Yeah.
or, anyway, so once I did that event and we used the gold, I was like, okay, that's where we're going with this,
Yeah, gold is fire. I love it so
right?
much. I
It works.
really do. One more question, or
Uh,
another question, because they're rolling in now. Is there
okay.
a favorite blackout poem from another author you have?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I follow a lot of, I don't have a specific one, but I do follow a lot of other blackout poets on Instagram, and there are some just incredible blackout poets out there, really.
Mm,
Um, but I don't have a favorite one memorized, because a lot of times
mm,
they don't have, a lot of them don't have rhythm to them, or,
yeah.
that punchline.
But I thought it's interesting because I didn't really know about erasure poems until I met you, honestly.
Uh-huh.
So is
It's
this
not
like,
something that's like widely out there, but there is like
okay.
a little niche community of, like, we support each other. We're like, hey, good job
That's so
finding words.
cool. I want
Yeah.
to be in this community. I feel like it's so
Girl, just go get some
cool.
newspapers. You're welcome to join. Come on in. A lot of fun.
Yes. I'm like, where do I even get newspapers from? Like, that is so
Well,
cool.
I went to the LA Book Festival today, and you can register for the LA Times.
I could, like I could pay for it, right?
But I
Like, you should
guarantee
do
you there are
that.
people that who are already subscribed, and they will give them to you. I mean, people don't use, they just recycle them or throw them away. So people are always trying
Mm,
to give me their newspapers now, and I'm like, great. So that's why my whole apartment is just newspapers.
that's so cool. I can't
Great.
wait till your book comes out. I think it's gonna be amazing.
Oh, girl. We'll talk about it when
The
it
work
happens.
is real.
The work is
The work
real. Oh my
is
God, it's so real.
real. So for our
Yes.
viewers watching, that's how I met Sarah through CLI Community Literature Initiative. And I think, she's on the tail end of wrapping up this book. So tell us where your mind is with this, like just,
Oh,
just being so close, and like the pressure is on to like get these
okay.
pages and word counts and all of that.
I'm gonna be super honest with you. Like I have hit the page number,
Mm-hmm.
the goal. I've written enough material. Like I have enough material. But the problem is in taking this class and in writing this material, I'm just like realizing how much more I need to fill in the story. Like
Mm.
it's not just a collection. There's a story here. There's a through line. And so I am doing everything in my power to make this deadline, but at the end of the day, I'm also not going to, if the whole story is not there yet, I'm not going to make myself publish something that's not done,
Yeah.
So, and I'm
Yeah.
just kind of having grace with myself, and that, like I started CLI, and then I started a new job, and I just had no idea the
Mm.
just physical, emotional, mental, just like how demanding it was going to be. And it is like every day is a practice of I'm working against a lot right now. It's like every day I'm just like hitting a wall, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, what can I tell of this story today? And sometimes it's just an erasure poem,
Mm.
sometimes like I
Yeah.
can bust out something really true, So all that to say, like this book is like, it's taking so much, but it's also really saving me,
Mm.
right? Because it is the thing that is life-giving and makes me feel purposed and
Mm.
driven and excited. Like I'm not
Yeah.
doing other things for no reason. So the
Yeah.
book will it'll take what it takes. It might
It
take longer than,
will.
and if I don't make the
Yeah.
deadline, trying to forgive myself for that. Have some grace for
Yeah. I mean, don't. I think you'll make it because, like you said, you have the material, and but too, you want the story to be there. You want it to be
right.
good. But I
Yeah.
also think another goal of the class, I would say, is at least get the ball rolling to where you know where you stand. Because before,
Right.
maybe you're like, okay, maybe it would take me much longer to get the book. But it's like creating this discipline. And I think that all writers, we have to have that discipline to write. Because, you know, a lot of writers say like, oh, I'll write when I feel something or when I'm moved. But that's really not the
Just like
best
when there's
practice.
time. Like, just, no. Like,
You
yeah.
have to write literally every day to get yourself in that rhythm, because you might hit a season where you're like, I'm not feeling nothing. I'm actually like,
Right.
really don't feel like writing, but you created this practice. Like, I know when I'm in a fiction class, and so one of my classmates, Noro, she said she writes 2 hours every day. I said,
Wow.
what? She says, yes, no matter what, I'm writing for 2 hours every day. And I said, girl,
That's amazing.
I don't know if I can do 2 hours, but I got you on 30 minutes.
Right. I don't know where I could get 2 hours, but like it really has taught me to use my time wisely. It's like, okay, like I just like, I don't watch TV anymore. I don't really hang out with my friends anymore. Sorry guys, any of you watching, I love you. But it's like, okay, there's a spare moment and there's not a crisis that I have to deal with. All right, let's like, what can we talk about? What do you have the emotional capacity to try and tackle today?
Definitely, I agree. It's a challenge writing a book, like, and then, you know, the hardest part too is like, they always say the easiest part is writing the book. The hardest part is like
Letting
getting
it
the
go.
book, letting it go, getting it ready to like be out in the world. Like,
oh really, you know, like I am very meticulous with words. Like, I want it to be word perfect. I'm not a perfectionist in a lot of areas of my life, but when it comes to like just this one thing, like, let it go. Can I just let it go?
Definitely.
We'll see.
Definitely. Well, for our viewers, one more round of questions. If you have them, ask them now, because now Sarah's going to share another poem with us. And while she's sharing, get those questions in.
Okay.
I mean, I have a request, but I'm hoping like if you do it, that's cool.
You
and
tell
if you
me.
don't do it, I'll still do what you were gonna do, and then I'll still ask for it.
And you'll still ask for it?
Well, the one I think you changed the name. Oh my gosh, my like nail fell off. Excuse me, that was like so random.
Was that a sneeze? Bless you. Okay.
Huh?
Was that a sneeze?
No, like my nail fell off. Like I gotta get that fixed. It just I just heard something and I was like, oh wow, that's fun. Cool.
Great.
Well, the poem, I think you changed the name, but I think it's called Wild.
Oh.
Were you going to share that one?
It's here in front of me. I kind of had a few sitting here, but I can do that one. Yes.
Well, I mean, do what you were already going to do, and then
do that one.
I mean, it's up to you, because I got a question in, so then like you can answer the question, and then we can do one last poem.
Okay, so all right, so this one I will do before that one, and then we'll end with that. Is that cool? Okay, yep. So I went to Australia a few months ago. Not a few months ago. Back in November, to visit my best friend, and I ended up sitting next to this woman on a plane, who just like wanted to talk all night, and she was this incredible woman. So anyway, I wrote the song. So it's called "Strangers on a Plane" or "The Edge." In broken English, tied together with ribbons of Polish and French, she tells me of the edge, of how after 2 husbands and 2 children, she finally found her second wind when she cut ties and set sail round the world one day just to find some sign of true north. And now she will never be going back to that other smaller state. She tells me of how she once led an expedition all the way to Antarctica, to the very tipping point, how when the boat couldn't push through the ice any further, she asked the captain to cut the engine so she could just hover there. Then she rushed below deck and gathered all the shivering people from their blankets and huddles and made them go stand outside to listen to the silence, she told them, then held her breath, hoping some might actually hear, Hear what speaks out in the frozen quiet. The quietest place on earth besides the grave, she says. Hear what hangs in the air on the particles of breath turned to ice, what solidifies, what memory or thought comes tiptoeing forward, leans over the edge and screams. Listen, she told them, then held her breath. She holds it even now, carries the silence back to me, tells me of the edge, of earth, of sound, of being, of how either we stand back for fear of falling off, or we lean forward far enough to see, to hear how the world comes to an abrupt end and then curves on into something whole.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I love it. I have another question
Thanks.
from Auntie Sai. She
All
asks the
right.
best questions. She comes in and asks
Yeah.
all the questions. I love it. She says, do you edit your Blackout poems?
Do I edit them? Oh, man. I mean, here's the thing. Is that, like, once I put this gold Sharpie down to paper, it's like, that stuff's done. You know, like, sometimes I will stare at an article for forever sometimes. And I will, like, decide exactly what I'm going to do. And then if I'm tired, sometimes I will, like, cross out the word that, like, the whole poem revolves around. And once I do that, like, it's done, you know? And then I have to make a whole new poem or just, like, let it go. It's rough. It's really hard. But no, usually, am very intentional about, like, okay, I don't put the pen to the paper till I am ready to commit to those words. So that's why I like, this one's done, right? But this section right here, like, I don't know if you can see, but it is just like blacked out. I just like can't commit to this yet, right? So like, I'm like, this stuff can go, I think, but like, what if I need one of those letters? So, so sometimes I will work on a poem for like hours, and then I will just leave it for days, and I'll just come back and be like, all right, let's see if we see something new this time, or today. So
that's really cool, and I think that is the beauty of. I think that shows me crafting, because I feel like poetry should be crafted. I'm learning now, you know, in my writing to really spend some time and go back. Like, it doesn't have to be done today. It doesn't have to be finished or perfect just because you wrote it now. That doesn't have to be it. Like, craft this, make this an art. And I feel like by doing those Blackout poems that you showed, like, okay, I sit for an hour and I come back, and then, you know, I know I don't need this, you know, just that whole process of like, okay, yeah, that is crafting a poem.
And that's not just Blackout poems, though. You know, that's I mean, I've been listening to all the poet chats pretty much every night. So, and I love them so much. So thank you for doing this.
Yes.
But somebody said last night or night before, like, once their poem's done, they never edit it, never go back, never touch it. Like, wow. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Like, everybody just has their own process, you know, be able to do that. Just be like, this is what I meant when I sat down to write it, and this is what I committed to. But like that moth poem I read earlier, like, the thing is, it took me a year to fully understand what I was trying to say. Like, I knew all of the components and the metaphors, but I just didn't know how to put it together. You know, that poem is about my older sister, and the reason I wrote it is because 2 years ago, she said to me, I just feel like I'm a moth trapped inside of a fluorescent light. And that image, like, stuck with me. But I was just like, I don't even know how to. So then I did all this research on moths and on the kind of treatment she had to go through, and the side effects of those treatments, and dealing with the psychological stuff. And it wasn't until the day before my interview at CLI in October that I finished that poem, because I had seen a moth trapped in a window, and it was like, for whatever reason, like, it clicked. The final thing clicked, and it was just like, I don't know how to put all these things together, but I'm just going to let them all sit on this page together until they talk amongst themselves and figure out where they need to be, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, crafting, shaping.
Wow.
But
And
you know,
I agree.
not all poems take 2 years, but some poems take 2 years.
Not
you know?
all poems do, but one of my favorite poets, Dennis Cruz, I asked him a long time ago about, how do you edit poems? Like, let's say you wrote it and you're in a sad place, but then you go back to edit it, and you're not in that same place. So how do you even edit it? And he says, you don't edit the intention, you edit for clarity. Not edit for intention, but he said you edit for clarity. So you keep the voice of it, you keep the tone, but you make it clear what you were feeling. Because sometimes when you're emotional, you're just like writing and writing.
Yeah.
And then when you go back with a clear head,
vomit.
Yeah. You don't change it, you just make it clear.
Just like read it with absolutely.
Exactly. So
but I agree.
Yes. I'm Talita asks, where did you study theater?
I studied theater undergrad at Wake Forest University in North Carolina. And then I moved to Atlanta, and I did an apprenticeship with Horizon Theater for a year. And then I moved to Los Angeles to attend the Stella Adler Art of Acting Conservatory for 2 years.
Cool. That's really cool. I have another question here. When are you hosting a Blackout Poem workshop? I want to know that too.
Oh, hey, NC in the house. That's a great question. Maybe when this book is done.
No, don't wait till it's done. You know do what? It. That's like promo for
We'll just say next month. Oh, I don't want to commit to that. I'm not ready.
And it doesn't have to be like 8 million people. Just even if you have 4, that's a workshop. Okay. Even if you have 2. I mean, I'm one, and clearly Auntie Sai is 2. So you got 2 people. It doesn't always have to be like, oh my God,
3 of us,
30, 50 people.
You know what? Let's do it. Let's do one Saturday. Actually, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. I got so many gold Sharpies.
That would be so cool.
Cool.
Definitely. Well, keep us updated, and then when you figure it out, get the dates and get the times and what we need to bring and all of that, then I'll share it and let everyone know. And maybe you got to do because I know that's a lot of people are gonna want to come. So you're like, okay, I can only do 5, or I can do whatever, and then that would be so cool. So keep me updated. Hold on, I lost light. So while I get my life together, I'm going to ask you to share another poem. What happened? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay.
All right, this poem, y'all. We could do it online. Interesting. That's an interesting. That's doable, actually. A lot of people I know kind of. I've never done digital sound poems, but some people do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this poem is called To Water. My mother lives in a little yellow cottage that rests in the tall shadow of Grandfather Mountain. At night, she smears peanut butter onto pine cones and sets them out on the porch, leaving them for the bears the way children leave cookies for Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. My mother knows that this is a silly, unsafe thing to do, but she will not be told. Something in her always longs for more, wild, so she stands barefoot in her flannel nightgown on her snow-covered stoop and calls it to her door. Leaves her windows open even in the February chill. This is how I learned. How I learned to hold my chest wide, an open invitation. How to be a refuge for all wandering and hungry and sometimes wounded, sometimes dangerous things. Once, I pulled a screaming baby bunny from the clamped jaws of the stray cat. And didn't I get scratched? And didn't I sit up all night holding it under a lamp, dabbing warm goat's milk into its little mouth? And didn't I feel the chill, too, when its tongue grew cold beneath my fingers, when its body became still, so still, When the little house I built for it suddenly turned into a casket, how many times? How many times did we bring our feral finds home? The cats, the dogs, the raccoons whose mothers someone had squashed in the road. And didn't we love them? And didn't they teach us that loving meant allowing space? And didn't we learn not to reach or clasp or clamp, but to drop our hands to our sides, open cups, to pretend cool indifference when they finally came and pressed their wet noses into our palms? They taught us never jump at love, or else you'll scare it away. So it only makes sense then that when I met a coyote of a man along the road, I invited him back home, and this is what I said to him: come in, help yourself to everything you want. Stay a while or don't. But underneath my breath, this is what I prayed: God, make my heart an unclenched fist. Let me be an open cup, but please, God, make him drink. How many times, too many times, this is the lesson I always forget. You can make an untamed thing want you, even trust you, even love you, but you cannot make him stay.
So good.
Thank you.
I want to know what made you change the poem from wild to water to water.
Sure. Originally, it was called The Wild, and may still be, but there was a girl in my class, Asantua, and she said, well, there's that saying of, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And that's really it. The wild the whole poem is about the wild, but it is also about like how, even if we want to be the right fit for someone, or we want to, be the nourishment for them, you can't, right? Like the person has to choose you. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but to water just felt like, I also have another friend who has a tattoo, it's from a song right here on her collarbone, and it says, be like water, my friend. And it's I think of that tattoo all the time. I remind myself to be that all the time, to, when I feel like fire, just to be water, and to be soft and move. And, water is such a life-giving thing. There's nothing wrong with water, water is, you're enough, right? So I may change the title again. It just like when she said that, I was like, yeah, that's it too. So
I love that.
Yeah.
We'll see,
We'll see. All these poems are still in process. So,
yeah.
Somebody said the other day, like, yeah, right, it's never finished, it's just due. Like, we'll just see what happens when they tell me I have to turn in all my pages, We'll just whatever's on there, we'll just be like, that's it, that's what you get from me.
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been such a rich interview. I want to thank you. I mean, we could keep going for, it's already been like an hour, and I know I promised you like 20 minutes.
Oh, this was great. I cleared my night. I was like, I'm ready. So.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah.